Smooth. You're getting good at that.
I am. Good morning.
Good morning.
You know, they say if you practice things enough, you eventually get good at it. I'm going to turn the heater off quickly because I did forget to do that. Good morning.
Hello there.
Happy sunshiny first work day of fallback daylight savings, blardy, blar, 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 blar.
Or as I like to call it, November.
Fine. Some people call it November.
I like to follow the Roman calendar.
Good for you. Very exciting. What's new in the world? Anything? No. Great. This is This is basically television. The long pause doesn't work so well. Yeah. Good morning to all of you. I hope you're drinking coffee or tea or something enjoyable in a handmade mug, because what's the point of drinking coffee or tea or anything out of a made in China mug is my first thought of the day.
Unless you're Chinese.
Sure, go ahead. If you're watching this in China, good tomorrow morning or whatever. All right, we're off the rails. So today, Motivational Monday, we're talking about a book.
We crashed, actually.
We might have. We're talking about a book that I read first at Thanksgiving, Linchpin by Seth Godin, to get ready for the Alt MBA, which I took from him in January, 7,000 years ago, or 9 months ago. I love this book. Cannot recommend it enough. I'm teaching it in my class. So in Linchpin, Are You Indispensable by Seth Godin. And I'm going to just read you a quick little section. There's a million things I could have read you today because there's so many interesting sections. And we've read some other things by Seth. His books are exactly like his blogs. They're pithy, they're to the point, they're contemplative. I really enjoy him. And he has a new book out that I just listened to a podcast on Saturday. I cannot wait to read it. So this is from a little section called Showstopper. 2 hours into Guys and Dolls, time stops. Nathan Detroit walks out in his yellow overcoat, shouts out to Nicely Johnson, and then Johnson and the cast start belting, sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down, you're rocking the boat. Adrenaline flows, the crowd goes wild. In that moment, art triumphs over everything. The play has been rolling along, and suddenly the songs, the lights, the dancing, they're all taken up a notch or 10. The crowd wakes up, leans forward, and cheers. And I've been in that play, I can tell you that is true. Consider the ways a pilot walking down the aisle can change the entire afternoon for a restless kid on a flight. Or the way a doctor taking just an extra minute can change her relationship with a patient by pausing and caring. The opposite of being a cog is being able to stop the show at will. What will it take for you to stop the show? Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
Do you?
I've discovered that if you watch Parks and Rec, I know. If you watch Parks and Rec, you know that in like season 5 or 6, they bring on some new characters. Craig, who comes from Eagleton, who's, I forget what his real name is, but many of you know it. Very, very funny. But Craig is emphatic in very peculiar ways. And I realized that's why I love him, because I'm Craig. Oh dear, Craig is a little out of control, so I need to manage that.
Well, you need that bad, love.
But I love this book. In part, I love this book because it's really all about the idea that linchpins are artists. And I love anybody who doesn't live in the arts sector, who lifts up the arts as being valuable, and who also says you can be a scientist artist, you can be a barista artist, you can be a somebody working behind the desk of a rent-a-car center artist, because it's about what are you bringing to your life. So the reason that I love that idea is, how are you breaking out of being a cog? It's already almost the end of 2020. So while it has been bonkers, what have you done? Are you going to get to the end of this year and realize that you just gave it away? Or are you going to spend these last 2 months doing something unexpected, doing something atypical, breaking out of your cycle, making a name for yourself, if only for yourself? Do you have anything you want to add to this?
It's very inspirational. I mean, inspiration for everyday life is important, and the people that manage to do that are incredibly good at what they do. Great friend of ours told us this story about where he works. He during the pandemic, he was just happened to be in work one day, and I think it was the CEO or the president of the company he works for, or someone important, was just walking through the offices, and Nem said hello to him, and he said hello back, and he said to him, you don't have to come in this way. You can come in, at the big important front door. And this guy said to them, well, if I go that way, how will I meet any of you? Mm-hmm. It's the same deal as a pilot walking down. I've seen pilots do that, just to say hi to people. On big transatlantic flights sometimes, and it's just a nice way to say, hey, we're all in this together, or hey, hello, I'm looking after you.
Well, and in the purpose of the larger context of the book, because you haven't read it, really the point is, if you're going to use the pilot example, are you just flying the plane, or are you invested in the flight and in the people who are taking the journey with you? And are you bringing your best self, or are you just dialing it in? And that, I think, is the interesting question, both for someone who is, maybe feeling like alcohol is bringing more to the game than they are, or for any of the rest of us. What are you bringing to the table? Because the table only gets laid once. We'll never do Monday, November 2nd, 2020 ever again. Ever. So what are you going to do today that is going to bring your fullest, truest, most invested self to the world? And that's true whether you are living by yourself and you don't talk to anybody else today, or whether you're a frontline worker and you are confronting incredibly sick people, or anybody in between. There are lots of days where you could just dial in teaching, particularly now. I mean, you can't criticize someone who's kind of doing the bare minimum, because so much of it is so difficult. But I never see you dial it in. You bring your best, truest self, and that's why, even though you could make more money in industry and maybe have different stress and have accolades that you can't get from teaching, you will always be a professor, because that's where your best, truest self shows up day after day. Well, you know why I know that's true? Because when his worst, bottomest self was showing up at home, his student evaluations were still off the chart good. That tells you something. He figured out how to pull forth his best self, even in the midst of alcoholism, for his students. That's impressive.
So, pulling it off during a pandemic is relatively easy. I actually feel sorry for our body of students who are doing this stuff online. It's not easy.
No, it's not.
And there'll be some people who say, well, it's easy, it's online. It isn't.
I'll say this. So, I'm teaching this semester, haven't taught in 11 years, 1 night a week, 2.5 hours. I get off that Zoom call and I have to go immediately to bed.
You said, Mas Mary, I'm off to bed.
It's a huge performance.
It's
a very different way to try to engage students and keep them connected than it is in person. It's really much harder. So let me just take this moment to say this. If you're an elementary or any K-12 teacher,
bless you.
Wow, I've always had regard for you, because both of my parents and 3 of my grandparents were teachers, and I student taught. But wowzers, you are bringing stuff to the table nobody ever thought you'd have to bring. So thank you for that. I have to tell you, this is my most technological day I've ever had in my entire life.
There's a lot going on around here.
My phone is streaming us. My laptop was playing Quinn's music. and I'm going to turn this around for you so you can see. I'm actually in 2 meetings right now. This is the Arts Leaders meeting that I host every first Monday of the month. But I told them that I would be on after Dr. Mary and I finished up. So they're all talking, waiting for me to come, but I can see them. And it's just very funny. I feel like a tech whiz today, which we all know I'm not.
And by comparison, I'm off soon to teach my one class.
Yes. Well, today, you don't have to dial it in too hard today. I want to read this to you one more time. Just the last sentence. The opposite of being a cog is being able to stop the show at will. What would it take for you to stop the show? And the show can be defined however you want. Is that your job? Is that your relationship? Is that your life? Is that your internal monologue? We heard a song today. I can't tell you the name of the song, but the chorus was basically, this was at Spin. I have a black belt in beating myself up, and I'm excellent at giving love to everyone else. So can you break the cog cycle of the self-hatred that might be happening in your brain today, and give yourself your best, most curtain closing, audience rousing self. You deserve that. You deserve your very best self, not the one that dials in, the one that's engaged, the one that's invested, the one that asks the questions and gets excited about the little things, because at the end of the day, that is really all that matters.
I mean, a lot of people are their own worst critic. You should maybe spend today giving yourself a break.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you don't know the song, Sit Down, You're Rockin' the Boat from Guys and Dolls, it's not a great musical. It's not, let me rephrase. It was a great musical in its era. It's not aging particularly well.
I doubt any of them
It's pretty
are,
sexist.
Really. Yeah.
But Sit Down, You're Rockin' the Boat is among the great crowd-pleasing, raucous, fun numbers. So don't listen to the Eric Clapton version. That's a little mellow.
You'll fall asleep.
Go to YouTube and pull up a version of it, because if that doesn't have you standing up and wanting to disrupt the cog and be something more, then probably nothing will. Okay. Happy November.
Yes.
Happy Monday. And we'll see you tomorrow morning.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.